Hi there and welcome to Reflections. Today we are back on Bayou Grande. It's just my co-host Monica and myself today. And you hear the waves lapping in the background. You possibly can see them. But we're so excited to be here. And we want to bring you a little bit of, it's not really trivia, it's a word to the wise about wildlife and what you do when you go to the beach. Please, people, please do not leave these laying around. We found this today, setting up. Now, Monica, what would this do to a sea creature or a turtle or a bird?
Different parts of their anatomy, of course, could get trapped in these tiny holes. And once in, it's really hard for them to get out. And, you know, the panic. I mean, you can imagine if you were stuck in a trap of some sort. But, you know, they get their legs, their beaks, their arms, and their wings, and stuff caught in here. And at my house, what we do, even if we're going to put them in our trash can, we clip all the parts that make a hole so that there's nothing, even if it blew out when the trash guy came, which we bag our trash, but you know, neither here nor there. If you cut those things, you're going to help protect them. And then, of course, not leaving them around.
Exactly. This is very, very sad to find. We could have found a little turtle or a bird trapped in this, and that would have been even sadder. But folks, cut them up like Monica was telling you, because whenever all of our garbage is dumped in a dump, birds will get through it and pick through it, and they can get trapped. And so this is a no-no. Mo, what's another no-no?
One my kids really learned is, you know, our local library here does a summer reading program. And a couple years ago, they had a guy come out who was with the, I can't recall it. Yeah, he studied sea turtles and knew all about sea turtles. And he did a program talking about the sea turtles. And he had a big, huge net that the kids could crawl through. Like, the turtles would go through it, but there was a certain place that they could get out. Like, it got narrower, and it actually had an out. And then he talked about different things that could harm these turtles. And one of them is... And how often do you see these flying down the road or through a parking lot because somebody has just haphazardly thrown them out? But to them, this is a death trap.
Exactly.
And my kids are forever, oops, I don't want to litter, sorry. My kids are forever seeing these plastic bags, and my daughter will run, and she'll always try and ask me first because, you know, that stay with mom and don't run off, you know, be within where I can grab you. But she tears off after them, and to her this is important because that's stuck in her mind that this is something she can do. That's a small thing to protect wildlife. So.
Well, what will we do with them? Just not leave them out on the grounds and different places?
That's probably the best thing, is to not leave them out, not leave them where they can, you know, trap animals. You know, I know that you can take these back to your local stores usually. Thrift stores in your area. I've taken trash bags full, big, huge black trash bags full of these to the stores because they have to buy them if they don't, and usually the thrift stores are not for profit and,
sure,
you know, usually help different organizations. And if you're just not going to do anything with it, if you tie it, you know, in a bunch of knots and just make a big ball out of it, it's going to be less damaging than if it's open and,
good idea.
you know, so just a few things.
Didn't we make something out of those one time in our ladies group?
Actually, we did. We actually got a bunch of them and we cut them a certain shape or size, and then we, of course, you had to put something over it, but we used an iron and we melted them down, and I think most of us were making little coin purses. I still have mine somewhere. I never finished it all the way, but
yeah, we really did. So you can actually repurpose these bags, and that's something to do. If you don't want to take the time to repurpose a bag like this, tie it into knots so creatures cannot get stuck in there, or they try to, I don't know what they do, you know, suffocate or whatnot. So just tie it in a big bunch of knots and throw it away, or take it to your local thrift stores, because as Monica was saying, they need them for when you check out. And so it's very expensive to buy if you have to buy something like this. These were just two things that we saw out here in this beautiful, you know, bayou that can harm animals. So, and that leads me to a story. It is so sad, people. I don't know if you saw it, Monica, but it was in the News Journal. Every year, from May to October, the sea turtles around here, we help. There are volunteers that help, build nests and help them to secure the nest, and then also whenever they're hatched, have the hatchlings get out to the Gulf. Now this is going to be hard to even say, so I hope I don't start crying. But it was discovered at our one of our state parks, probably about 12-15 miles down the road, that someone had gone into some of the nests and broken up the eggs. It's just tragic. They took the eggs and they threw them at things. They, cracked them on purpose. They had to dig the nest up.
Yeah, they're buried a good ways down.
Exactly.
That was part of that show that the guy did, or the educational program that he put on for the kids out there. It was actually at Big Lagoon State Park that he did it. And he talked about how with each of these nests, when they're built, they mark them, and the reason they do is because there's a certain period of time before they start hatching, and then they actually have to come out and actually have to set up stuff to help protect them from other wildlife, and also like they see the lights and they go towards the lights. So if there's a bunch of lights on the shore, they're going to go towards the shore versus going out to sea. And it's only like one out of ever so many thousand that actually live and make it. And then for people to actually go in there and just purposely kill these animals and destroy, it's heartbreaking. It's very, very sad.
It is. It's very tragic. So, and then there was this debate on the comment section in the newspaper that said, well, y'all care so much more about these animals than you do unborn babies, and everybody has a cause, and the animal lovers were speaking out, and so I can't blame them, and I can't blame the ones that are passionate about the unborn babies. I mean, you can be one or the other, you can be both. I mean, just because you're wanting to protect sea turtles doesn't mean you don't care about other forms of life.
And I think that's very true. I think that you can be for, animals and wanting to protect animals. I mean, I would be horrified if I saw someone, trying to kill a cat in my neighborhood, or torturing a cat in my neighborhood, beating on a dog, to the extent that it would hurt the animal and kill the animal, There's just so many things like that I would be against, and that, if I could do something as simple as tying up a trash bag or taking it with me when I leave the beach versus leaving it somewhere where it's going to blow into the sea and hurt an animal, I'm going to do it.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean that I don't also care about human life.
Exactly.
And do I value the human life more? Yes, I do. But at the same time, these are still creatures that, God has created and given us to enjoy and to learn about, and they're fascinating, and to just totally disregard that's sad. And I don't see where there's a valid point. No, you care more about the sea turtles than you do human life. I mean, these people weren't stating, I'm going to put all my time, effort, and energy into this. This is something they've chosen to do as a profession because they're passionate about, or a hobby or a volunteer thing. That doesn't mean that they also aren't passionate about, abortion or people that have children and then just discard them.
That brings us to really the meat of our conversation today, and it is, where do we learn compassion from? And I'm sure as many people as you ask, you might get as many different answers. But where do you think you learned your compassion from? Is that a loaded question? Is it multifaceted?
Yeah, I would say it's multifaceted. I mean, I think that a certain amount of it you're born with. Can it be nurtured by external forces? Yes, but I think some of it's just comes from God. That it's born within us. Of course, that can probably be squelched by things, and it can also be nurtured by things. You can see a small child, and see how they'll look at another small child, and they'll want to love on it and stroke it and care for it. I've ever since I can remember, I've seen my daughter trying to do things around little babies. She loves babies, and just watching her and the need there, and seeing that desire to care for, animals like the sea turtles, and just all creatures, and especially babies. That isn't something that I said, oh, you need to go and love on that baby. In fact, most of the time I'm like, honey, keep your hands off the baby's face. Don't want to give it germs. But I do think it's wonderful that she has this heart of love, and she's tending to the care of, an animal or a child, or, But I see so many things in people that are good, and they show that they have compassion and love for their fellow human being and for God's creation, and whether it be animals or the earth.
Yeah, I really agree with you, because there's the nature nurture side of everybody, and I believe that we're all born with these great and fantastic gifts that God gives. Compassion is one of them, and I do think it can be squelched, it can be fostered to boom and bloom in your life, or you could be in a set of circumstances that would cause you possibly to not be as compassionate as the next person next door. And those are just unfortunate things in life that happen, that you need to try to rise above, and unfortunately it's hard for a lot of people to rise above their nurturing environment, or lack thereof, I should say. But compassion is something I believe that we're all born with. I believe it's very much innate within us. I think it's always there, but sometimes, I'm not always compassionate, but I am sometimes. So that means it's still there, but I can press it down sometimes, or I can actually let it come out and be what God wants us to be, and that is compassionate toward others. We're going to have a great guest on our show in 2 weeks, not next Sunday, which is Father's Day, because my dad's going to be a guest on our show with us, and then we'll also we'll just have a little piece of him, because he can really get going, and then you and I can talk about him after he leaves the set. But we're going to enjoy my dad next week, and then the week after we're going to have Beverly Julian on the show, and she's oh my goodness, a very compassionate person.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, she well, I don't want to give everything away, but she's a volunteer at the Northwest Florida Wildlife Sanctuary, and she's got some interesting stories, and we're going to talk to her about what she's doing and what we can all do to help wildlife. And I hope everybody's compassionate toward all creatures, great and small. I remember reading that as a kid, and I think it's from James Eliot, but it really sunk into me that everything is made by God, and he cared enough to make these things for us. We need to take care of them, and I haven't always been as responsible to the earth as I should. You're very much teaching me to do more recycling, repurposing, and those things. And so we can be compassionate about our earth, about the animals on the earth, the creatures, and the people on the earth. You don't have to pick and choose, just do it to all of them.
Right. So and that's one thing. I don't know how many of you know. I think it's been stated and it's been put on Facebook that my daughter's in a Girl Scout troop, and I'm one of the leaders. And it is very much about talking to the girls about learning how to become leaders, teaching the girls about discovering a problem, finding ways to figure out how they can change that. Fix it, make it better, help solve the problem, and then actually taking action to do that. With some of our brownies, we've been talking about water, and how only 1% of the amount of water we have on this earth is actual safe for drinking water. And that's astounding, because this planet is made up of mostly water.
Sure.
And so little things that you can do, like shutting off the water when you're brushing your teeth, and taking maybe a few minutes shorter showers, or just simple things like that. Reusing your water, like if you're got a leak somewhere, putting a bowl underneath it and using it for other things. Simple things like that. And, of course, this is all about taking care of our earth,
yes,
and taking care of our planet, and making sure that, those future generations have those resources and things,
Yeah, I mean, you've taught me well, and I'm embarrassed to say that when Monica started this recycling thing, she would tell me about it, and I would just like, oh, Mo, that's just too much. It's just too much to do. You got to rinse out the cans, squish the cans, there's just separate, and I was just being lazy. And then I watched you, and now I save cardboard for you, and I save cans to repurpose and make little lanterns out of them, and different things. So you've really changed me, for the better in a lot of ways. But certainly, you can teach an old dog new tricks. So I want to confess that to everybody. I'm a better person. I'm more compassionate toward our planet now, thanks to Monica. And I've always been compassionate toward animals. And sometimes my husband even tells me, honey, I wish you would, love on me like you do the cats. Joke. No, that's not true. I love my husband all the time. But there's just something about something that can't do something for themselves. It just touches me in such a way. And I can get overboard, I know. But I'm going to do better. I'm going to branch out and start loving people.
I think you do great at loving people.
I think I do too.
I think you're a great example in that area to me and to many of the ladies we know.
Oh.
And I think that you show compassion in so many ways to people. There's people that rub you the wrong way, but you still just are kind to them and loving to them regardless. And that's not always the easiest thing in the world to do.
No, and I know that I was born that way, and I was lucky enough, or blessed. I'm going to say lucky, I don't know, because, God does the blessing, and so I'm going to just say I was born with the right set of circumstances, for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had parents that taught me to, be kind to people, and, that was nurtured in me. And so, and then obviously when I started learning more about the character of God, even as an older adult, the more I learned about God, the more compassionate I wanted to be just like Him.
Right.
And I stumble a lot, but I do believe that He's such a great example. Jesus gave us the most loving example at the cross, and we've talked about that before, where He did not resist the people that came to apprehend Him. He was so patient with them, and He didn't strike back, and what an example.
Right.
I'm not quite there yet, obviously, but I sure want to be, and that's what I strive to do. So just grow up with us, and stay tuned, and you might find that we actually mature a little bit further than we are right now. That's our goal, is definitely to mature. And people ask a lot of the times, well, if there's no hell, if you say there's no hell, well, what in the world do you tell people? And they don't have to get saved.
And they just live like they want to live,
Yeah.
do anything they want to do.
But you don't feel that way if they could only experience it. I don't live just any old way. I live with the thoughts that there's somebody that loved me so much that He made such provisions for me, that He is very long-suffering. And why would you want to intentionally hurt somebody like that? Why would you want to go against somebody like that? So that's a false argument,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Well, people just want to jump the gun that if there's no hell, then that means that you can just do whatever you want to do, and the two just, it doesn't necessarily meet up. It doesn't match up. You can believe that there's no hell, because we do. We believe there's no hell. We believe that doesn't fit into the character of God to create a hell, first of all. And that He would, if He created it, why would He put any of His created beings that He loves there and that He wants called good,
Right.
These are all things that, because so much of, what we've been taught in church and in religion, and it's gotten mixed in with the scriptures and mistranslated and then just purposely put in there, and people's own ideas and thoughts about God. If you read so much of the Old Testament, you do get the sense that God would create a hell, and that there would be, even though it's not mentioned in the Old Testament.
Yeah, but he sure.
Yeah,
they
because
portray
one
him
minute
like
he
that.
says he makes all this creation and it's good, but then the next minute, I repented, I made man, and
Yeah.
he destroys all but 8. So there's not a whole lot of security or love in that.
No.
And then you have the God in the New Testament, as we say. And this is where what we believe is that God revealed himself in Jesus, who he really was.
Yeah.
And
Jesus is God himself.
right,
Yeah.
that Jesus, God himself, he came in the flesh because no one understood who God was. Nobody knew and had a true picture of who God was. So Jesus came and he walked among the very people that, supposedly he couldn't be around.
Right.
Couldn't stand in their
sinners.
presence, the
Yeah.
sinners. He walked with them, he talked with them, he ate with them, he washed their feet. He had fellowship with them.
Yeah, healed them. Interacted and said, you know what? I don't condemn you.
Right.
He just absolutely loved them so much.
Right.
Before he died on the cross. Yeah. So, the cross.
And he wasn't condemning them before he went to the cross.
Right. The cross is very significant to us, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with salvation, because you have to ask yourself the question: well, what would we be saved from, or who? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you're being saved, well, who are you being saved from? What would happen if you're not saved?
Right, and everybody's going to go back to, well, we sin, and sin is, the wages of sin is death, and blah, 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 and, they're going to go back to the fact that, God had to forgive us of our sin. But the thing is that if he didn't hold it against us, if he didn't keep a record of wrongs, if that verse in Scripture is right about love keeps no record of wrongs, and God is love, then what did he hold against us? What is he keeping a record of? What wrongs does he have to forgive us for? And we talk about our children, as parents. Our children do wrong all the time. We did when we were kids. We still do. But we don't take and sit there and make a list of it and look to harm our kids because of it. We want to see behaviors corrected when they will hurt somebody or hurt themselves. But as far as, doing something wrong, most of the time those mistakes are learning opportunities to grow up.
Sure.
And God didn't put us here as perfect beings. He created us imperfect.
Right.
And then to expect perfection out of us
is insane.
Yeah, it is. It's insane. And then to expect that for us to be perfect, or he's going to, send us to a place where it wouldn't be a correction.
Right.
But it would be an lasting and eternal torture and punishment. There's no correcting of behaviors there.
Right. And from what I know of him personally, he does correct, and he absolutely does, discipline, and he's so gentle though. He's so gentle, and well, I want to ask this question. I was reading something about the Army. Now their suicide rate has increased. There's like one suicide every day. It has been this year. Raining.
Yeah, I was gonna say these cameras, electronics, not good in water.
Well, we're back. We have a typical Florida afternoon thunder boomer with some rain. So, but we're back, and a little bit wet, a little bit worse for the wear. But here we are, troopers. That Monica and I. Oh, it's raining again.
Might be just blowing off the trees there. We'll see.
Well, we were talking about suicide, and I'm sure most people, I would say most people, were taught that, if you commit suicide, then you just go straight to hell because you cannot ask God for forgiveness. Like, that's a big deal. Like, you have to ask forgiveness for every little thing you do before you go to, be with the Father.
Some people teach that, though, that you do have to ask for forgiveness for every little thing, and if you miss something, brought up in Catholic Church, there's mortal sin and venial sin. So when you go to Mass on Sunday, Saturday before you go to Mass, you go to confession and you ask, the priest, but you're supposed to be the mediator to God, and for to forgive you of your sins. And There's a lot of religions that, you know, because you don't go to confession, but you still, you know, have to ask for forgiveness for each and everything, you know, or you have to act a certain way and not do certain things. And you know, if you try and go by this or try and go by that and all these different rules and this different religion and that different religion, I think people that, you know, have to worry about all that are so much more probably prone to committing suicide in my book.
That's probably true.
But I really don't believe that that's the way God is.
Oh, of course not. And the thing is, you know, and definitely I'm out of my league here, but when somebody commits suicide, you know, they need help. They are sick in some ways. They are obviously out of options. They don't know what else to do. I mean, so, you know, the great physician came to help us. And so, obviously, you know, they weren't helped at that particular time, but I just know that our loving Father God has a place for everybody. Obviously, we teach that. And, you know, the reason I bring this suicide up, our troops are committing suicide at an alarming rate now. It's one a day, actually. And it's up. It's actually jumped. It had declined, I think, in 2009, 2010, 11. But, you know, this year, I think there's been 155, you know, one a day. And they want to know why. And there's so many reasons. Multiple, you know, tours of duty and combat zones, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, everything. But what caught my attention in this article, not just that we have a son and a daughter-in-law in the Army specifically, and obviously you have a brother-in-law and sister-in-law and another brother-in-law in the service, but this one guy was a major, and in 2005, between his tours of duty in Iraq, he hung himself, and he had a young family, and his wife said that he was too ashamed, embarrassed to ask for help because he thought it was a sign of weakness.
Well, I think that's taught to some of them servicemen and women sometimes, is that, you know, be tough, be strong, you know, you can't think about the person that you're shooting, you know, when you're in battle and combat, you know, you have to just look at them as a target, and I'm sure all of that goes into messing with the minds of the servicemen and women that are over there now.
True.
I've never had to be over there, but like you said, I have loved ones that are over there, and, you know, especially so much so in like the Army and the Marines, and, you know, for these people that are the higher ups, they're taught that way, and they're, you know, almost to a brainwashed state, you know, and I'm not knocking anybody in the military, sure, but, you know, and I think to a certain degree they have to be, so they can be strong enough, because I don't think I could pick up a gun and go shoot Bambi, let alone go shoot another man. Now, if somebody was charging in my house and about to kill my child and I had a gun nearby, I might.
Yeah.
You know, I might be able to pull that trigger, you know, but, you know, to actually go into somebody else's country and into another country and to actually fire a gun at somebody that I don't know who they are and whether they have a child or they don't have a child and whether they're going to fire at me or not fire at me, I just don't think I could do it. But, you know, these higher ups are taught, and they have to teach the ones that are under them, and I think that, you know, it's bred in them to be strong and to be tough, and so I think a lot of times they don't want to ask for help because they do think it's a sign of weakness. And
yeah, especially this guy was a major, and it might go along with our compassion theme, because you're born with this compassion, you know, for people, and then you know, shooting another person because of, you know, religious differences or philosophical differences, that would go against everything your compassion's teaching you, and so you're at this war within yourself. And I'm just saying it could be some of that, but what really got me was the higher echelon chain of commands. They're not taking this seriously. They're not really jumping on board. And it was even quoted that this one, like, general guy, he was telling his people, you know what, you need to start acting like an adult. You know, you don't commit suicide, act like an adult. Now, how sad is that? And that would give reason for other people to say, you know, I can't ask for help because I'm being, you know, belittled, like I'm a child, or there's something wrong with me, or I am weak if I have to ask for help, you know. But these people need to realize that this is a real thing going on and snap to it.
I mean, it's a real thing in just our common society, that people, whether it be physical things that cause them to want to give up, whether it be emotional issues or financial issues, or whether it be actual, chemical imbalances in their brain, hormone imbalances, whatever it is that drives them to this. And then you top that with being separated from loved ones, whether it be spouses and children or parents, brothers and sisters, being thousands of miles, hundreds of thousands of miles away from your loved ones, being in these harsh conditions in the desert type atmosphere, going without food periods of times, going without, basic things we take for granted, being able to take a shower every day, and things like that. And then having to, add on top of that, the fact that you might have to kill someone or that you have killed someone, and I think that it almost should be mandatory that these people are given counseling, whether they want it or not, or at least offered it after each time they come home, and if they made it mandatory, then so many people wouldn't be feeling like, oh, they have to ask for it, or if they accepted it, then they would seem weak. If it was just you automatically go on a tour and you come back and you go through this, because there is a need for it, I believe.
Well, I do think they do try to debrief you when you come back, and I'm not sure what that is because Jonathan's never told us what the debriefing was when he came back from Iraq, but I think it all stems from compassion. If these higher ups, these generals and colonels and everything, if they had some compassion for the people underneath them, they would say, I need to look at somebody's need first.
Right.
I need to anticipate the need. This could happen. The general's not over there doing it. They've sent all these people. Most of them are young kids, young girls and boys over there.
Right.
If you look at the statistics about those that have died in combat over the last 10, 12 years, they've been 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, early 20s. And so when you send people over there to do this job and you don't have compassion for them, what they're facing. Now, I'm not saying the general wasn't in harm's way or
has never been.
Exactly. But right now we're fighting a different war. It's altogether philosophically a little differently. And so it stems from compassion. If you have compassion for somebody, you'll anticipate the need before it arises. And so that's what needs to happen. More compassion needs to happen in our services, in our churches, in our communities, in our gatherings. And we need to be, about our brother's business. We need to anticipate. I need to anticipate what you're going through. I need to be empathetic and sympathetic toward it. And I believe that compassion that we're born with needs to rise up. We need it more than ever, than we've ever needed it.
Along with that, you are seeing examples of people's compassion that aren't, in churches 24/7, that are just people loving other people. And, I read something on Facebook, a lady that's my Facebook friend, and I believe her name is Krista, and she lives over in Africa and saw a man on the side of the road bleeding. Now, a lot of people were like, oh man, did you think of AIDS? Did you think if it was a trick and all this stuff? She probably had that going through her head, but at the same time, she saw a human being laying there bleeding. She stopped and she helped this gentleman. And went into a store and asked for gloves so that she could take care of the wound, and just acted out of that compassion that was within her. And she had her children with her. What an example to her children, that she didn't leave some man dying and bleeding on the side of the road.
It's like a modern day Good Samaritan story.
It is. It really is. And she didn't end there. She had somebody take him to the hospital and then wrote a note, don't just give him ibuprofen or painkillers and send him on his way. He needs something for infection. Because this guy had a bandage on his head already and was bleeding through it because he had been bandaged up, went for care and went to work. Because he was that poor, and she fed him, and he was like, why did you do this for me? And you needed it.
Compassion in action. And so that just proves our point. Like when there's an accident on the side of the road, people don't normally drive by. Everybody stops, everybody runs into the fiery vehicle and they pull them out. What does that? People may not go to church, they may not even believe in God, but they're going to do things like this. And so that, in my opinion, is that God-given ability to be compassionate toward other people.
I can speak to that. You know, when we were in our accident, the man was mowing his lawn, got through mowing his lawn. He wasn't in service. He'd been mowing his lawn on a Sunday. It was a Sunday. We were just left service. We went to lunch. We were on our way back to drop my husband off so he could work for a little while, and we were going to go spend the day. I was going to take a nap. I had a headache. And this gentleman who'd been mowing his lawn had went in and taken a shower. He heard the crash, ran out, and he took his clean white shirt off, gave it to my husband to wrap his head in when his head was cut open. I mean, this man didn't know us from Adam, and there was a gentleman who stopped him and his wife, and his wife was taking care of my daughter. Her husband was directing traffic. Another man who stopped and let us use his cell phone, and his cell phone got passed around all over the area there. Another woman helped stand with my son while I was running around picking up stuff. People were helping gather up all our stuff. I mean, who knows where these people had come from, whether they'd come from the beach, the grocery store, or the bar.
Right.
Something within them acted because they saw the needs of another human being.
Exactly. I believe that ties us all together is compassion, and it doesn't come, I believe, from, you know, between two covers of a book called the Bible. It doesn't come from a place that has a steeple, but it comes just as a gift from God that we have compassion one toward another. Now, we can squelch it, yes we can, but most people don't. And so, atheists, agnostics, Gnostics, Joe Blow, whoever, people that do go to church, people that just gather and enjoy each other's company and try to come together and do good things, you know, in the name of God, they all have compassion. So the church does not have the market cornered on compassion.
No, not at all.
As a matter of fact, I hate to say this, but most of the people I know that do go to church, and this is my opinion, my experience, so you can call in or write in, but it's my experience that they are the least compassionate.
Well, I mean, you look at all the sermons that are being taught nowadays that if you're gay and lesbian, we're going to put you behind a fence.
Right.
We're going to electrify that fence.
Where's the compassion?
We're going to let you die off, you know. If you're an atheist, we want you to get on a plane and get the hell out of Dodge.
Where's
you know?
the compassion? You know, compassion doesn't just, is not just geared toward one group of people that are like you. Real compassion is broad. It goes to everybody, people that are unlike you. That's true compassion, not just those that are exactly like you.
Yeah, well, so, Jesus said, "Love even your enemies."
Exactly, and
you know, he said, "You've heard it taught to love your neighbor, but hate your enemies." But I tell you that you should love your neighbor and love your enemies. You know, I mean, and we're taught to love one another. It doesn't say love one another, but not the atheists, not the lesbians, not the you know, the people that wear nose rings.
Sure. Right.
We're just taught to love one another.
So what we're telling you today is go out there and be compassionate to somebody totally different than you are. Don't be compassionate to somebody just like you. That's probably easy. Probably. But go out there and be compassionate tomorrow or even this evening to somebody that is so unlike you it would scare your mother. So go out there and do that. That's what we encourage you to do. Also tonight, we're so excited at 8 p.m. Jackson Bear, the author of What the Hell, he's going to be with us, and we're going to talk to him for a couple of hours. We're going to have questions. Call in at 850-572-7441 with your text questions. Maybe we can get you to Skype in. Email at info@newcovenantgroup.com. It's going to be a powerful session because if you are still on the fence about hell, this might just push you over the edge. And we are absolutely wrapping right now, and it's been great to be with you. And join us next week. We're going to have my father on for Father's Day, and Mo and I are going to drill him about his techniques, about his parenting techniques.
It's going to be funny.
It's going to be funny, I guarantee you. All right, yeah. What? Who?